One of my aims for the channel is to do more reviews, and I realise I haven't done many lately, so today I'm going to rectify that. Today I'm going to talk about The Stranger by Albert Camus. And this has been done to death, so I won't go into too much detail because a lot of people know the story. A lot of people know basically what this is about and have explored some of the themes in one way or another. This is translated from the French by Matthew Ward. I reread The Stranger for the third time because of the Existentialist book club, which Rachel has started, and I will link that book club down below. And I keep coming back to this book because this is the type of book that you can read in about an hour or two, but it's going to take a lifetime to unpack. And even though I don't rate the book highly, I still think it's an interesting book to read and one well worth checking out. Most people know the story of The Stranger. It's the story of a man named Marcel, and he kills an Arab, and that's the first part of the book. The second part of the book is where he goes to trial for this crime. And what really stuck out to me this time was the way that Arabs were treated as second-class citizens almost. And in the first half of a book, you have Marcel talking to a friend about Arabs, and the way they talk about it, it's like they're nobody. And if you don't know, Albert Camus was a French Algerian, so this is a time when Algeria was occupied by France and was under French rule, so the French Algerians were treated better than the Arabs of her time. And this stuck out to me because in this day and age we talk a lot about how Muslims keep being treated like second-class citizens, and I found an interesting comparison. And I know that not all Arabs are Muslim, but I do think the vast majority do follow Islam. So reading the book like that kind of gave me an interesting perspective. When the second half of the book starts, it starts off with the judge asking Marcel if he's a Christian and if he believes in God. And Marcel is kind of an unemotional type character and doesn't really have any belief. And the way that kind of read to me this time around is like, if you're a Christian, it's okay to kill an Arab and we won't take this trial any further. And that's the kind of the impression that I got from it. But because he wasn't a Christian, then he went to trial, and that's how I felt about the book. I don't know if that would have been the case, but it kind of sat with me in that way, and I thought this was really representative of America especially and the Western world at this time. And I found that part fascinating, and I couldn't get that out of my head. The Stranger is the story of Marcel, obviously, and he is an unsympathetic character. He is a nihilist, and this is a work of absurdism. And while he killed an Arab, the trial kind of evolves into why he didn't cry at his mother's funeral, and that became the entire focus of the whole trial, because that's not normal not to cry. And that kind of indicates the title, The Stranger, or if you're in the UK, The Outsider, someone that sits on the outside of the norm. And this brings up an interesting concept of how we want everyone to act a certain way, and if you don't act that way, then there must be something wrong, or there's something we have to fix. And I find that an interesting concept, and I think that's one of the themes that runs through this book. Albert Camus says this is a book of absurdism, this idea that humans are constantly trying to find meaning in life, but the paradox of that is that humans will never be able to fully grasp meaning and fully understand what life is all about. And that's the concept of absurdism in a nutshell. It is more complex than that. It's a type of nihilism, therefore a type of existentialism. And there is more to go into that, but I will not go into that as much because there's millions of videos, millions of articles that probably could explain absurdism and The Stranger a lot better than I can. But I wanted to talk about this book because I read it for the Existentialist book club and because I need to get back into reviewing books. And I know this is going to be a quick video, but I felt like it's something I needed to say and talk about. It is a short book, but there is more we could talk about. But I want to leave you with a quote I found by Albert Camus about The Stranger. I'm just going to read this off my phone because it's hard to remember the quote fully. Albert Camus said, "I summarized The Stranger a long time ago with a remark I admit was highly paradoxical. In our society, any man that does not weep at his mother's funeral runs the risk of being sentenced to death. I only meant that the hero of my book is condemned because he doesn't play the game." And that quote kind of is what I've been thinking about with this book the third time I read it. The idea that if you're not doing something that might be expected or something that seems to be the norm, you are treated differently. You are treated as an outsider, and maybe we need to be accepting of the way people grieve, the way people process stuff. And there's a lot to go into, but I will leave you with that quote because I thought that was something well worth remembering and well worth thinking about while talking about The Stranger. If you want to find me elsewhere, all my links to social media are in the description below. But before I go, I want to recommend The Marcel Investigation as a book to read alongside The Stranger because it does deal with the other side of the story. It's told from this perspective of the Arab's brother and the effects Marcel had on his family and the country. And I think that makes for a great contrast, and it explores philosophy in an interesting way because you can read The Stranger and get one side, and then you can read an argument against it. I'll leave you with those thoughts, and let me know what you think of The Stranger and if you have some interesting insights on the book. Thank you for watching.